This brief video will provide an introduction to the EMPI HPMX Carburetor and the components you will work with during your initial adjustment. First, let's identify these key components and their locations. The idle mixture screw, 1 per barrel. This screw determines the volume of both air and fuel for the low speed or idle circuit. Idle jets, 1 per barrel. These jets determine the amount of fuel for the low speed or idle circuit. The idle speed screw adjusts the idle speed of the motor. The air bypass screw and locking nut are factory set in the closed position. Do not remove or adjust. Adjustment is for advanced tuners only. The accelerator pump adjustment is set from the factory. Again, adjustment is for advanced tuners only. The main jet stack, which includes the main fuel jets, air correction jets, and emulsion tubes. The idle jets are located in the side of the carburetor. Held in place by the idle jet holder. Be sure that the O-ring is in its proper position and seat firmly. Now we'll remove the velocity stacks, which will allow us access to the main jet stacks. Be careful not to let the nuts or washers drop into the carburetor. The HPMX features extended main jet holders, which allow for the carburetor main circuit to draw air up away from the carburetor body. The extended main jet stack holder, the main air correction jet found at the top determines the amount of air for the main circuit. The main fuel jet found at the bottom determines the amount of fuel for the main circuit. And the emulsion tube, which determines the mixture and timing for the main circuit. It is important to use appropriate care when working with carburetor components. Use the correct tools and apply a light touch, as these components are brass and can be easily damaged. Be sure to keep your workspace as clean, dirt, and dust-free as possible. Each HPMX carburetor has been pre-run for quality assurance. These charts detail the factory jetting and some basic jetting recommendations. Every application is unique, so carbs will always require initial adjustment and possibly rejetting. The HPMX carburetor features complete individual adjustment for each carburetor barrel. Now let's preset the idle speed screw prior to our running adjustment. Reverse the idle speed screw until it is not touching the throttle arm. Find the point at which it first touches or moves the throttle arm, then turn in 1/2 turn. If done correctly, you can see that the throttle plate is only slightly open. If adjusted too far in, moving the throttle arm too far opens the throttle plates to expose one or more of the progression ports. This is the most common cause of tuning frustration, as this confuses the low-speed circuit and renders the idle mixture screws non-responsive. Now pre-adjust your idle mixture screws. Turn them in until they are lightly seated, then open one full turn. Too much strength here can damage the needle tip on these screws. Now you are ready to adjust the carbs on your engine. You'll be adjusting each cylinder separately, as each cylinder is fed by a single barrel with no communication between cylinders or barrels. You should have new spark plugs, and be certain that your ignition timing is correct. The first step is to disconnect the linkage arms from the carburetors. We need to be certain that nothing is putting pressure on the throttle arms of either carburetor. Check the idle speed screws, 1/2 turn in. Now you can start your engine. It will be running at low RPMs, maybe stumbling here and there, but it only needs to run. Idle speed is not important at this time. Next, move to the idle mixture screw. Turn in slowly, 1/4 turn at a time, and listen for that cylinder to fall off. When it does, turn the mixture screw slowly open, 1/4 turn at a time, until you hear the best idle for that cylinder. You are tuning by engine sound. If you open it more and it does nothing to make it better, or runs worse, turn it back. You want to be right on the point of your best idle for that cylinder. Then move to the next cylinder and repeat. Then the next, then the last cylinder. Now move to the idle speed screw and set the idle speed you desire. Be certain to move each screw the same amount. Once adjusted and running with all 4 cylinders at their best idle, you are ready to synchronize the carbs. No black magic here. A simple sync gauge will make it a breeze. Place the sync tool in the lead or front barrel in the velocity stack and read the gauge. Repeat on the lead or front barrel of the other carb. Pick the lowest reading, then by adjusting the idle speed screw, bring the high flowing carb down to the low flowing carb until the sync reads the same for each. Then bring them both up to proper idle speed. Be certain that the idle speed screws are not open more than 1/2 turn. And when you think you are there, run the sync tool once more and correct if necessary. Reinstall the linkage to each carb, making certain that each arm has no pressure when at rest. Check that one side does not push or open before the other, and adjust the arms as necessary. Check to see that your linkage joints are aligned properly and that nothing is binding. Check to be certain that your return springs are functioning, that you can achieve wide open throttle, and that your carbs close and rest on the idle speed screw, all without any part binding. Bolt your air cleaners back on and make your first run. Next video we'll go live with an engine and adjust the carbs in real time and discuss how to determine if a change in jetting is required.